All right. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. My name is Jeff Sparr, and I'm the artist and co-founder of PeaceLove Studios.
So one thing that I want to talk about that we have coming up is that you're going to be speaking at a conference for OCD. Having OCD is obviously something that is deeply personal to me as well, and sort of started my relationship with being here at PeaceLove. But I was wondering, how is talking about something that is so personal to you?
I've gotten used to it over the years. This talk, more so than most that I get, is obviously very personal, knowing that there's hundreds of other people and families that are in the audience that like me, in many cases are suffering in silence. So I think people will relate on a whole different level. So it's a lot more personal, and in preparation requires a lot more thought and trying to share a lot, which in many cases is painful. A lot of my experiences and memories to try to help maybe others relate to it, find maybe some inspiration somewhere in my story.
And so a huge part of your story is obviously, and why we're here today, is painting. What was the draw to painting over like all the other mediums that you could have picked?
Good question. I guess I got a phone call from someone that said to me, that painting might be good for me and my health, and when you're desperate, you'll try anything. So I rerouted, went to this art supply store. I guess for the world, it was a good thing that someone said singing wasn't good for me. I don't think we'd be sitting here right now, and none of this would have happened. But when you're desperate, you'll try anything. And I figured, what do I got to lose? And so I started, and the rest is history, I guess.
Something that you mention on your Mental Mondays, and the theme that comes up a lot, is your interest in fashion.
Yep. And
that you've had for a while, right? Since you were younger?
Yeah, I mean, my background, is the textile industry, so I guess I've always had a kind of an interest in textiles and colors, so, maybe not that surprising, and, just always fascinated with, fashion and, maybe a simpler time in the 1920s and 50s, and kind of the style around that. So that's kind of become one of the themes that I really enjoy, trying to capture in some of my paintings, and combine that with, I like to try to create motion and a sense of kind of action, and creates kind of a unique kind of style and experience when I'm actually doing it, which is what it's all about, right? I started doing this to give me some peace of mind, so no surprise that I've stumbled into something that might be a little different that helps me out.
Who is the Peace Man, and how did he start? Because he's someone that comes up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question. I think that when I first started, I many years ago I had painted that symbol, the PeaceLove symbol, and at the time, obviously the combination of icons, but for me, deeply personal. A heart, love for yourself, and the peace symbol, for peace of mind. And then I started, putting it in the peace symbol in this alter ego of mine, this guy with a fedora and jacket, and then I put the heart in, and just kind of evolved to being this peace man guy that I always use in my art and paint, and it's just kind of evolved there, and from there. But I know I like being the peace man. He's calm, cool, collective, maybe a little inspirational, motivational. So it's always like it's helpful for me as a goal to try to be more like him, versus maybe some of the obstacles that I have to tackle with my own illness. So it's kind of that person that I want to hop into his body sometimes. We all know that it doesn't work that way, and it's not that simple, but at least it's something to aspire to. You know?
And he's got the 1920s suit and the fedora, so maybe that comes back in.
No, he's cool. There's no doubt about it. So I guess, it comes back to your question on the fashion.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a combination of everything. He's a combination of fashion. He's a combination of a lot of things that come together, and hopefully, at least for me, a symbol of a better place.
So how does it feel to be coming up on this year's Storytellers and to see that grow over the course of PeaceLove?
So we get closer to the event, always a little surreal for me. I tell people, all the time. I mean, I would have never dreamed that, simply by just getting up and maybe sharing my story in some small way, that, it would maybe inspire others in a small way to maybe to share their story. And I think the only interesting thing about my story is, I could be anybody, right? Similar to the cause that, I've dedicated my life to. Because, at the end of the day, everybody's got a story, and I think the story, which we see in our event, right? The story always is the story, and it never ceases to amaze me. The uniqueness, the interest, the courage of people to share their stories, and stories have the ability. I've always thought, stories have the ability to mobilize the world to change. And just a simple act of anybody that's been to our event or might have the pleasure of attending this year or other years, is pretty incredible to see how people are willing to share and how that can inspire, motivate others to do the same. Powerful stuff.